if y'all ain't figured out by now that Joe Biden ain't nothing more than a turtle on a fence post. I'll tell you what. When is he gonna get his rightful doings for all this wrongdoings? I mean, it needs to happen. I mean, when they follow the money, they're gonna find the money. Uncle Joe.
President Donald Trump, and we saw how all of this was used for election interference and for a scheme to try to remove a president from office. In other words, what was just watched, what we all just saw, that was a palace coup in the truest sense of the phrase, or at least, look, an attempted palace coup. A coup d'etat is a seizure and removal of a government and its power. A palace coup is a specific form of a coup d'etat. It involves the overthrow of a government from the inside. It's where one faction of the government displaces another faction. Look, I was among the first journalists to call this scandal out, to call it what it was. That started with an Epoch Times article in May of 2017 titled, "Despite Allegations, No Evidence of Trump-Russia Collusion Found." Look, we followed that with deeper investigations myself and others did at the Epoch Times, which really revealed the full story on that. We also published several now famous investigations, infographics, authored by Epoch Times host Jeff Carlson, and they detailed how this scandal unfolded and who was involved. Look, for doing that, for telling the truth, we were labeled as an outlet, a news outlet of QAnon conspiracies. We were censored by social networks and by ad networks. But what we reported, all that, it has since been proven true. Establishment news media, meanwhile, they did the
I
opposite.
knew it in
New York Times and
2016.
Washington Post, they even won Pulitzers for their investigations into the now debunked Trump-Russia story. Look, New York Times even wrote in 2019 in a statement that personally, I think they should seriously consider retracting. They said, "We're proud of our Pulitzer Prize winning reporting on Russian meddling in the 2016 elections. Every New York Times article cited as proven accurate." Yeah. Look, Trump, meanwhile, had called their Pulitzer Prizes, called them to be rescinded. He wrote on Twitter in 2019 this. He said, "So funny that the New York Times and Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their coverage 100% negative and fake of collusion with Russia. And there was no collusion. So they were either duped or corrupt. In any event," he says, "the prizes should be taken away by the committee." And look, in case you're wondering what Representative Adam Schiff had to say about all this, one of the guys pushing a lot of these fake narratives, the Epoch Times asked him today, and yes, he said there was, in fact, he claims, evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. He actually told us, if you read Mr. Durham's report, what he said is that there wasn't evidence of collusion before they began the investigation. That's obviously a very important distinction. So, folks, what actually took place? Let me show you. Let's dig into it. Look, before Trump left office back in 2020, his Attorney General at the time, Bill Barr, appointed a special counsel to investigate Crossfire Hurricane. Crossfire Hurricane was the code name that the FBI had given to their intelligence investigations, counterintelligence investigation. And that was looking into the alleged links between Russian officials and associates of Donald Trump. Look, that led to spy operations and fake media hit pieces against Trump and his associates. And even
That's one of the reasons why I got
like,
suspended
for
from
example,
Twitter.
raid on Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort. This all started when Trump was still a presidential candidate. It continued through most of his presidency. It undermined his campaign and it undermined his ability to govern when he was president. And it turned out that the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation was launched using the Steele dossier. And it turned out that was phony, fake, opposition research from the Clinton campaign and from the DNC. That's the Democratic National Committee. In other words, fake and partisan opposition research was used to weaponize the FBI, to mislead voters in the 2016 election, and to shroud as well Trump's presidency using fake manufactured controversy. And then what happened? They used the FBI's fraudulent investigation to get special counsel Robert Mueller appointed from 2017 to 2019 in an outright attempt to remove a sitting president from office and to possibly even recommend criminal charges against him. In most countries, if you saw this happen in like Latin America, for example, this would be considered an attempted palace coup. That's what you would call it. And then Mueller's fraudulent investigation was used to mislead American voters on the next two elections. First was the midterm election in 2018. Democrats won 41 seats in the House of Representatives. Again, folks, what do you call it when a faction uses a stratagem to displace another faction in politics? Back to what we discussed. And that displacement wasn't even satisfied with the taking of Congress. That gave them the majority they needed to impeach Trump. And impeach Trump they did. In fact, he became the first president to be impeached twice. Then there was the 2020 elections. Everything else aside, all the other issues we saw, set them aside. The Russian disinformation narrative, they extended that, the Biden campaign, and also former leaders of the intelligence community, to again mislead American voters and to censor the American press. They concocted
Away from Joe Biden's.
on Hunter Biden's laptop. They claimed, again, the laptop
My
of Joe
God.
Biden's son, they said it looked like Russian disinformation. And that fake narrative was used to suppress legitimate news reports on that story. And look, polls showed that that story alone could have flipped enough votes to change the outcome of the elections. That brings us to where we are right now. Special Counsel John Durham, he just released his report 4 years into the making into what just took place. And his conclusion, it's that the FBI launched the Crossfire Hurricane investigation on false premises. They did not interview people connected with this whole case before launching it. It says in the 316-page report, it details serious abuses of power, serious abandonment of common practice. It notes in particular that, quote, there was a complete lack of information from the intelligence community that corroborated the hypothesis upon which the Crossfire Hurricane investigation was predicated. In other words, it was groundless. It shows, it says, that the FBI was willing to make use of the completely unvetted and uncorroborated Steele reporting in its multiple spy requests on American citizens. They spied on Americans using that. It says as well they were unable to corroborate any claims from the Steele dossier. And so those of you wondering the partially false or partially true Steele dossier, they could not corroborate any claims from it. It shows as well the Clinton campaign financed and pushed much of the evidence, including false evidence, which the FBI just accepted wholesale. The list of problems goes on and on and on in that report. What it essentially says is that the whole thing was fake. And of course, it also doesn't recommend any charges. So we'll see what, if anything, gets changed. Stay tuned after the break. We'll be speaking with Lee Smith.
Plays made up of actual messages that they'd sent each other, emails and text messages, and sworn testimony. Every single word in the entire play. And it's all about them, it all has them laying out the plot to stop Donald Trump, that they had insurance in case Trump got elected president, they could still bring him down. That's one line from the play, which was, again, something that was actually said. They hated Trump people. Strzok famously said that he had been to a Walmart and he could smell the Trump supporters in that Walmart. He hated Trump people, and they were going to do everything they could to keep Trump out of the White House, or if he got in somehow, they were going to get him out.
Don't forget the insurance plan.
Yeah, they had insurance, and that was this scheme that they were going to frame Trump as a Russian asset. And remember, James Comey, the FBI director, staged this talk
Don't
with Trump where
worry,
he
we won't
told
let
Trump
him.
the information they had on Trump, which was that Trump was guilty of these things. And of course, Trump reacted the way Trump would react. He, told him what he thought of him, and he got rid of him. He fired him, and then immediately Comey contacted his people to get that story in the media, to leak it illegally, and make himself into this big hero that they ended up making a TV movie about. What a hero he was. All these people have made out like bandits. All the people who got great ratings at CNN or MSNBC because they were promoting the story, or the FBI and CIA people who became consultants on those networks. They're all famous, and sadly, so many people will still believe this, no matter what, to the end of time, that they will have professorships in their honor at colleges. They'll have seats on boards of directors of big companies. They'll never lose their security clearances. They will be honored by a certain sector of society for just the fact that they hurt Trump so much. It won't matter that none of it was true.
Well, to those people that will still believe what was impounded and imprinted for those years and years, over and over, the FBI, following the report, did release a statement acknowledging that they dropped the ball, saying in part the conduct in 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason the FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions. Are you confident that the FBI has changed their ways?
Hell
I just
no.
heard an FBI agent who's knowledgeable about such things give an interview, and he said that as far as he knew, the changes consisted of a couple of slides in the training program for FBI agents, and basically no changes, really. And you think about it, as much as we revere the FBI, as much as the FBI has done many great things, and there are many, many great people who work at the FBI. I always admired them when I was a kid, wanted to be an FBI agent. And but the fact is that the FBI spied on Martin Luther King. They then tried to blackmail him with that information, and then tried to get him to commit suicide over it. And that actually happened. And that's a dark mark on the record of the FBI. And now we have one where they tried to bring down the U.S. government. And it's so funny. There were, three people convicted of being insurrectionists of seditious conspiracy on January 6th. They didn't have any weapons, but were in the Capitol. And that was a big deal. Here you had the leadership of the FBI working with the leadership of the CIA to pull this off against Trump. And to the media, it's the second story on that day.
It's an excellent point. Dr. Stephen Allen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hate rain.
So what does that mean, and would it really be that bad? Well, to answer these questions, we have with us Jeffrey Tucker. He's founder and president of the Brownstone Institute. Hey, Mr. Tucker, thank you for being with us.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Well, I think the big question with the debt ceiling, I guess, first off, is what happens if we just hit it and let it happen?
Well, presumably then the U.S. Debt would be downgraded. At least that's the forecast. Congress is not allowed to spend any more money. The government is going to be hitting up against, bumping up against these spending limits. So, they'll play around with shutdowns and that sort of thing. I mean, we've been here before, Josh. You know about this whole racket. What they do is they say, oh, we're out of money. We're being starved by the bad Republicans. So now we have to close the passport office so you can't get your passport. We have to close national parks, and we're going to shut down the Washington Monument. In Washington, they call it the Washington Monument ploy, right? So you shut down all the things about government that people actually use, like the Smithsonian, but you keep everything else running. Just as a way of twisting people's arms. But look, I mean, the Republicans shouldn't budge. They should definitely push back on this, and not listen to these wild threats of default. It's not going to come to default. That's not going to happen. But even I think it's worth speculating what happens if the U.S. Does get its debt downgraded. That means
I was going to ask you that. I mean, is that really so bad? To be honest.
It really is doesn't. I thought it was funny the other day in the CNN town hall with Trump. Trump just said, "So what? We default." I mean, I thought that was a hilarious comment.
He said
like,
it's bound to happen anyways. That's what he said.
Yeah, I think he's might be the first major public figure in many decades who said, if maybe ever, who's ever said anything like that. So it's kind of proud of him for that. In a sense, what it does, it downgrades the credit status of the United States, which, as you suggest, would not be a bad thing. I mean, I don't know how you're going to get the government under control. It's wildly too big. Depending on how you want to, anywhere between 10% and 99% too big. I mean,
Cut Congress's
downgrading the debt
paycheck in
would not be a
half.
bad thing. At least it would inspire some level of frugality in Washington. We've got to have some means to do it. Nothing else seems to work.
Well, and Biden's saying that America is not a deadbeat nation and its debts. I mean, isn't the argument not?
Oh,
that,
deadbeat.
I mean, is taking out a credit card to pay off your other credit cards, is that being like not a deadbeat? Like, what do you make of that? What he's saying? I don't get it, to be honest.
Yeah, Josh, that's actually a beautiful analogy. Going into further debt does not fix your existing debt problems, and every American family knows that. And really, the government is in exactly the same situation as the average household. The only difference is that they have a money printer in the basement that they can run whatever they want, right? So this is very dangerous, because going into further debt like this, without the revenue to support it, is only going to lead to ever higher inflation, which is
And a
debt
recession.
monetization, and that's what's caused the value of the American domestic dollar in terms of goods and services to lose 15 cents of value over the last 3 years with no end in sight. So yeah, the more we continue to live beyond our means, the more they're going to rely on these kind of secret hidden taxes of inflation to fund things. There are ways to balance the books in Washington. I mean, there
Take Congress and cut their money in half.
And all these administrative agencies that are not listed in the U.S. Constitution. You don't even have to touch transfer payments. Assets can be sold. I mean, the U.S. owns vast amounts of land, particularly in the West, that can be sold off and earning money without raising taxes. There's ways to do it. All we need is the political will, and the question is, what is going to inspire that political will? And the answer is, you've got to hold a hard line. And I think Rand Paul and others are right about this. I'm kind of proud of the Republicans for standing up. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, well,
for writing the statement. Committee Chair Jim Jordan told Fox News this about Morell.
A current employee of the CIA was actively soliciting people to sign on to this letter that was used in a total political fashion.
Another signatory to the letter, former CIA Director John Brennan, sat for a 4-hour interview with the committee. Jordan said this about Brennan's testimony.
And he further confirmed that this thing was all political.
Clapper, who recently testified about the letter, had questioned former President Trump's judgment several times during the special counsel's Russia investigation.
I have concerns, and as do others, and I have tried to be factual and temperate and moderate about it, but I do have concerns, and no, I don't have any regrets.
Meanwhile, in a related Hunter Biden matter, an IRS whistleblower's attorney said that the IRS has removed the whistleblower and his team from a criminal investigation into Hunter Biden's taxes and business dealings at the request of the Justice Department. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
The Supreme
Again,
Court handed down a decision today on
Joe
Second
Biden's
Amendment
hand.
rights. The High Court refused to block a ban on certain firearms, including AR-15 style and AK-47 style rifles.
Saying on Friday, companies can claim tax credits even if their panels are entirely made in China. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, companies can qualify for tax credits if 40% of the panel's components are made in the U.S. That's to boost domestic jobs in the face of China's dominance in the sector. The Treasury also offering an additional credit up to 10% for solar
And it's
panels
all
assembled
a
in the
lie.
US, even if the cells and wafers are made in other countries like China. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calling these tax credits
China
key to driving
benefits.
investment
and ensuring all Americans share in the growth of the green energy economy.
I didn't know China
Investors
was American.
responded, with the top U.S. solar manufacturer seeing shares surge 26% following the news. But not everyone sees it as a win. Executive Director of the Solar Energy Manufacturing for America Coalition, Mike Carr, calls it a missed opportunity to build a domestic solar manufacturing supply chain.
Yep.
Noting China's dominance in the sector, he added, "We fear that this guidance will cement their dominance over these critical pieces of the solar supply chain." This comes as the Biden administration has set the goal of generating 100%
He's
of the
working
nation's
for the
electricity
Chinese.
from carbon-free energy sources by 2035. A 78-year-old American citizen's court. The man is 78-year-old John Xingwen Leong, a Hong Kong permanent resident. Now, Hong Kong's chief executive is responding after the man was convicted on spying charges Monday. Chief Executive John Lee explained there is a reporting mechanism for arrests made in China that involve Hong Kong.
The main purpose of this reporting mechanism is to allow, first of all, the family members to know about the situation so that they can do what is necessary to help the person concerned. Equally, if there's any requests for assistance to the Hong Kong government, of course, we'll offer the assistance as much as we can as requested.
Details on the case have not been publicly released. Hong Kong Secretary for Security Chris Tang also commented Monday, saying Chinese authorities had reported the man's arrest to the city through the notification mechanism in 2021. Court statements show Leong was apprehended on April 15th of that year. That's after an investigation launched by a city-level bureau of China's national security body. Trials for cases like these are often held behind closed doors, with little information released to the public. Accusations generally focus on infiltration, secrets gathering, and threatening state security. Beijing's ruling
Almost
Communist Party
sounds like what they
exercises
did in
absolute
D.C.
control over legal matters, civil society, and freedom of information.
Pay your bills, your
Yeah, for sure. The rent is already sky.
Rates already increased nearly $4 a month.
So is everything else, thanks to Uncle Joe.
Gone up about $20 a month in just the first half of the year.
All those solar panels you gotta buy.
Extensively. John Kraft is the spokesman.
And those windmills.
Says the utilities costs are going up.
Just as Georgians saw higher prices at the gas pump in 2022, Georgia Power experienced higher prices in the fuels that we use to generate electricity, in particular natural gas.
The latest rate hike brings the average bill to about $147 a month. Prices will go up again, about 4.5%
Yep,
next year.
that's because Joe Biden won't let nobody drill for gas.
$154 a month and again to $161 respectively.
It hits people hard every day.
Charlene Wright is the senior representative for the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign. She says that is too big a burden on customers.
Again?
Well, I guess there is some slight chance that Biden's veto could be overridden. You know, Kevin McCarthy could make the right deals with the right people and put some pressure on the Senate. It could happen. I mean, I doubt it. We just have to keep spotlighting how the Biden administration is just making
Too many socialists and Democrats.
All the problems that are going on over
They're
there.
communists
You know,
themselves.
it's pretty clear that our economy is way too dependent on China, and no one is doing anything about it. And then you have all these, you know, just insults to humanity going on, and you know, the Biden administration, which is, you know, worried about all sorts of social issues here, is not worried about social issues there. I'm hoping that Republicans in Congress continue down this road of trying to take action against this to stop this. And then ultimately, you know, voters in 2024 are just going to have to decide, do we really want more of this?
Steve Malloy, thank you so much. Really.
2:30 in the morning, look at all them lights burning. There's Chicago.
Oh, clearly, we have to make our city safer and cleaner and greener, and we need to have access to economic opportunity for all. If we want to see gun violence reduced here, we have to give people people access to the ability to take care of themselves. So increase home ownership. Just give people access to opportunities to earn a living wage and to take care of themselves.
This is a blow to progressives within the Democratic Party who have been winning mayoral elections in big cities such as Boston and Los Angeles in recent years.
The Biden administration's border policies are facing obstacles in court. A federal judge yesterday expanded a block on a policy that fast-tracks the release of illegal immigrants. The Biden administration's parole with conditions policy allows federal authorities to release illegal immigrants into the country without a court date. U.S. District Court Judge T. Kent Wetherill ordered a preliminary injunction on the policy. This was at the request of Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody, who has filed a number of lawsuits against President Biden's border policies. The judge agreed that Florida would suffer irreparable harm without the injunction. It will remain in effect while the case plays out in court. And another ruling in New York dealt a blow to New York City Mayor Eric Adams' plans to deal with illegal immigration. A New York Supreme Court judge has temporarily blocked the mayor from busing illegal immigrants to Orange County in upstate New York. Adams had ordered two suburbs, Orange County and Rockland County, to provide the illegal immigrants up to 4 months of temporary sheltering. The two counties declared a state of emergency and filed separate lawsuits over the plan. This comes as New York City struggles to handle the influx of illegal immigrants being bused from border states.
Yep, East Coast, nothing but lights. All the way up there. Nothing but fucking lights.
How he tried to influence Trump. However, if these same millions got into Trump's 2016 or 2020 campaigns, you would be hearing about this nonstop from every other media outlet. They already had a massive fail on the Russia collusion story, but this one would actually give them life. Instead, it was money spent to lobby officials to sway his administration from Lowe's prosecution. According to the federal prosecutor of that case, the effort to influence Trump almost worked, but it failed. The money that went to Obama, well, it's already been spent. Now, DiCaprio's testimony is also unique because he had a cozy relationship with Joe Lowe. Lowe helped finance some of DiCaprio's charity work, as well as his film, The Wolf of Wall Street. Lowe, clearly flush with cash, had lavish, extravagant Hollywood parties, and he flew celebrities around the globe, such as Leo and Pras Michel. It seems that no one really questioned this. And Leo, who should be much more savvy about political donations, never seemed to raise an eyebrow that a foreign national was funneling $20 to $30 million into the Obama campaign via Pras Michel. See, this is why these Hollywood charities, which give celebs such good reputations, are very problematic. You know, many knew Jeff Epstein through his various charity work, but that's exactly the wolf in sheep's clothing, rather than Leo's Wolf of Wall Street. Charities command big money, and where the money actually goes is suspect. It's a way of preying on people's emotions and their wallets. Lowe clearly used his deep pockets to get on A-listers' good side with his charitable contributions. Next thing you know, you're on his private jet, which is how, of course, every celeb thinks that they should be treated.
Funny expression.
There's a fellow over there at the crosswalk, at the light pole in the wheelchair. He got hit in a crosswalk. Not this one, but another one. And y'all damn idiots don't even bother to look for us. If y'all ain't figured out by now that Joe Biden ain't nothing more than a turtle on a fence post. I'll tell you what. When is he gonna get his rightful doings for all this wrongdoings? I mean, it needs to happen. I mean, when they follow the money, they're going to find the money. Uncle Joe.